welcome back here to another episode of BSN Network. Today is Monday, July 4th. It is July 4th here today. Happy July 4th to all of you out there. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. Had a good weekend. Hopefully everybody's enjoying their extended weekend here. Obviously, a lot of people get the July 4th holiday off, so happy Independence Day to all of you out there. Hopefully you're enjoying it. A lot of sports to get to today on the podcast. Coming off a very, very big weekend. Yankees don't have a game today, but a lot of baseball on today. July 4th is always a big day for baseball. Got games all over the place starting at 11 o'clock in the morning, 11 Eastern, with the Nationals and the Marlins, which is, I think, a kind of a tradition for the Nationals. You know, D.C., big, July 4th is big there, given it's the nation's capital. They usually play an early game, and then, then you have the rest of the day to do kind of whatever you want. So a lot of baseball on today, a lot of fun things set up for us all here on this 4th of July. So should be a good day. Starting things off with a lot to get to, like I mentioned. Yankees coming off a weekend in which they took 2 out of 3 against Cleveland. Game got postponed on Friday, as you all know. Swept the doubleheader on Saturday. First game 13-4, second game 6-1. And yesterday the bats just didn't come around. One hit, lost 2-0. It was just one of those duds. It was one of those games where the Yankees just did not show up, and it's going to happen. It's behind us. You move on, and you get ready for Pittsburgh on Tuesday. That's really all you got to worry about now. And then after Pittsburgh, you got a big 4-game set against Boston. So reset and get ready for Pittsburgh for the New York Yankees. Mets also got the series win against the Texas Rangers. It was a little choppy. It wasn't the prettiest series win, but they got the job done nonetheless with it taking 2 out of 3 against Texas. So they will now move on to Cincinnati, start up a 3-game set today against the Reds, which will go from Monday through Wednesday, and they'll come back home to Citi Field to face the Marlins Thursday through Sunday for a 4-game set there. So that should be pretty good there. All right, so a lot to get to today on the podcast. Like I said, a lot of baseball and a lot of basketball news as well, as the Nets and this whole situation with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant continues to get crazier, continues to get wild, more wild, it seems, by the minute. You hear reports, 1 minute it's about Kyrie Irving and the Lakers are close, or the Nets and the Lakers involving Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook are close. Then you hear that they're not close, and then you hear they're working on a deal. Then you hear LeBron wants Kyrie. It's been all over the place. That's what's going to happen when you have, these 20 different reporters out there reporting different stuff they're hearing. You don't know how true it is, because let's be honest here. Nobody saw or predicted Kevin Durant requesting a trade. Nobody said, oh, watch out, we're hearing reports Kevin Durant might request a trade. No, it came out when it came out, and everyone started tweeting about it. And everyone started, saying stuff about it. So that's kind of how it went. But we got a lot of topics to get to, one of them being the Nets-Lakers. But we're going to start off today with the Yankees outfield options and their situation involving the outfield. Like I said, as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, I want to do this with the Yankees. I want to do it with the Mets. I know it's July 4th. Trade deadline's, still a little bit out, a couple weeks out here still. But I want to start to kind of go over some things, and especially watching yesterday's game, seeing how it played out with only one hit. Yankees definitely have a big glaring weakness, and I've always said this for the longest time now. And after watching yesterday's game yet again and watching Joey Gallo go 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, it's definitely time for the New York Yankees to completely look at outfield options. And there's a couple good options out there. One of the options we'll be playing today or tomorrow, starting tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, with Brian Reynolds. There's a lot of good options out there, and there's a lot of guys that can do damage, good guys that fit Yankee Stadium, that could overtake Gallo and put us in a much better situation to win. So I want to get to those different options, want to get to those different things, and we'll get to that to start off the program. Then we'll get to the Nets and Lakers trade rumors. As, like I said, about a minute ago, a lot going on with the Lakers and the Nets. Rumors flying all over the place about different trades, Russell Westbrook. I'm going to talk about the Nets and Lakers trade rumors and specifically hone in on Kyrie Irving for the Russell Westbrook, the deal that we've heard a lot of. And I don't know how true it is. I don't know if it's true at all. But I'm going to tell you why the Nets better not make this move, because this is a move that could actually turn out worse than James Harden. And I'm going to give you some numbers to tell you why that is. So we'll get to that in the second topic, and then we'll finish things off today with the New York sports update, as always. Finishing things off with that. Yankees, day off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow to open up a quick 2-game set interleague against Pittsburgh. And then the Mets open up a 3-game set today against Cincinnati, in Cincinnati, against the Reds. So, a lot to get to today in the podcast. With all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So the Yankees right now come off of a series in which they took 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. So they open up July with a 2-1 record, win the series, and that's all we need to do, right? You win a series. Right now, you get to go on to Pittsburgh and all that stuff, and that's all good. They didn't sweep the season series of Cleveland, but they still were able to, for the most part, take care of business against Cleveland this entire season up to the point. Yankees right now stand at 58-22. They're 13.5 games up on Boston, who is behind the Yankees at 44-35. And, we'll get Boston at the end of this week, Thursday through Sunday, which will be a big 4-game set. That will actually wrap up. That will be the Sunday Night Baseball game this week on ESPN. So looking forward to that. That's always fun to watch. Last night was the Phillies-Cardinals. Pretty solid game. Wheeler was dealing. And then you have the Yankees-Red Sox coming up this week. So, the Yankees, obviously, you move on from Cleveland. You get ready for Pittsburgh. You want to take care of business. And, the Pirates, they're a team that's 32-47, completely out of the conversation in the NL Central, which the NL Central is back and forth between the Brewers and the Cardinals. Brewers right now only have a short 2-game lead. And then after the Cardinals, who are in second place, the third-place team being the Pirates are 13 games back. So the Pirates are struggling. If you're the Yankees, you got to take care of business. You got to take both games, similar to what you did in Oakland. Pirates, record-wise, one of the worst teams in baseball. They have a lot of young talent. You could see things are turning on the upwards with them. They are definitely young. O'Neal Cruz, solid player. They got definitely some young pieces, but it's the growing pains. It's the rebuilding stage still. They're still a little bit out from competing, but they're definitely closer than some of these other bad teams in baseball, like the Reds and the A's and things like that. So they're definitely better than the A's and the Reds. But you should still take care of business against Pittsburgh with the 2 games there. Then you go to Boston, and after Boston, then you have the Reds and then the Red Sox again. So then you have the Astros come out of that. So the Yankees enter a stretch here where outside of the Reds and the Pirates, you're going to have the Red Sox twice. 2 series, you're going to have 2 series against the Red Sox, a 4-game set, then a 3-game set. One of them being on the road, one of them being at home. And then you come out of the All-Star break and you got 2 quick ones against Houston. So the Yankees' schedule definitely tightens up a little bit. And they're coming out of this 20-game stretch without an off day, which was a tough stretch of games against some good teams like Toronto, the Rays, obviously the Astros being in there. Right, Cleveland even too. They're a competitive team. They're not a great team, but they're a team that can beat some good teams. Right, they're competing there in the AL Central. So they come out of that stretch 14-6. And I'm not gonna sit here, like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and complain because there's a lot of Yankee fans today that are complaining. They're like, yesterday was awful. It was terrible, and I'm not denying that. Yesterday was bad. I mean, to score no runs and have 1 hit and make 2 errors in the game. I'm not denying that yesterday wasn't good, especially when Jordan Montgomery goes out there and throws a very good game. 5 innings and 8 strikeouts. Especially when your starting pitcher does that and you don't give him any run support, that's frustrating as a fan. And I'm sure as a pitcher it is too because you're out there dealing and your offense couldn't do anything. But let's be real here. Yankees scored 19 runs in these 3 games, okay? It's not like they scored 4 runs, found a way to win 2 games, and yesterday the wheels just fell off. No, they still scored 19 runs in this series. They still came out, dominated on Saturday with sweeping the doubleheader, 13-4, 6-1, like I said. Yesterday was just an off day. You're going to have that over the course of a 162-game season. So I'm not panicking, although yesterday was bad. But yesterday did show that the Yankees have needs. They have some holes. There's no doubt about it. No team's perfect. Every team at the deadline, that's why the deadline's so pivotal. Because the deadline's an opportunity for the good teams to get even better, maybe some good teams to turn into the great team that year. The Yankees being one of the great teams this season with their record being where it's at, best record in baseball, 13.5 games up in the AL East. It's an opportunity for them to turn into that great team to almost that unstoppable force. And they can do that in many different ways. And I know a lot of people are saying, okay, you could go the route of, you could go down the road of getting a shortstop. And I know a lot of people are like, shortstop's a big need, more bullpen pieces. The bullpen hasn't been that bad. And Chapman was awful on Saturday, I know that. But you hope that Marinaccio, even though he just got placed on the IL, can come back soon, right? You have Michael King still. Clay Holmes is great. Licky is all right, but you still have your high-end relievers that have been consistent this year. Maybe you could add another arm, depending on what happens with Chapman, possibly. I keep hearing, shortstop. But shortstop, to me, is not that big of a need. And I understand people want a new shortstop. Zay Connor-Fluff right now is batting .258, and he's not, he hasn't hit a home run yet this year. And I get people where they're saying, oh, we need somebody new. Defense maybe hasn't been as good as people expected, but, when we got Falefa, what did people expect? This is not a guy that's going to go out there, bat .295, crank in 35 home runs and have 90 RBIs and be in the MVP conversation. No, he's not. He led the MLB last year in singles. He's a small ball guy. He's not going to hit, he's not going to get these big time hits. He's not hitting for power. Like I said, he has yet to hit a home run with the Yankees. He's a guy that hits singles, make plays on defense, and he's going to be a 260, 265, maybe 270 hitter. That's what you have to expect out of Falefa. Falefa, ultimately, when we got him, he's just a stopgap for hopefully in the next 2 years or so is going to be Anthony Volpe's position and going to be Anthony Volpe's position for many, many, many years to come. Obviously, right now, he's in Double-A with the Somerset Patriots. So I don't think shortstop's that big of a need. A lot of people are panicking and saying, oh, move LeMahieu there. No, LeMahieu's fine where he's at. LeMahieu's good at third, good at second, good at first. Last thing you want is to move LeMahieu to short. I know he's a veteran guy and he's great in the field, but then if that starts to mess up his bat, LeMahieu's been hot recently, don't do that. The biggest need for the Yankees is the outfield. And like I said, watching yesterday's game and night in and night out, seeing Joey Gallo strike out, it's the truth. And I'm not, like I said, we're 50-22. I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm complaining and acting like the world's ending. But watching Joey Gallo night in and night out is a hard thing to watch. Yesterday, he went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And to give you his average on base percentage slugging, he's 165, 277, 325. On base percentage all the way down to 277. Gallo, one of the things that people have always said when we got him here was he's going to hit home runs, he's going to walk, he's going to strike out. We all knew that. But I don't think anybody saw this many strikeouts coming. This is a guy that night in and night out striking out at least once. At least once. Mostly twice. Sometimes that 3 strikeout game. I think he might have had a golden sombrero as well with 4 strikeouts mixed into this season. But you can't have it. I know his defense is good. I know he's made a couple good plays. You got to give him that. But he's just such a liability in this lineup. You cannot possibly come October have Joey Gallo sitting out there in right field, coming up at bat with second and third 2 outs in a big game in the 8th inning and striking out. And he's not making the adjustment at the plate. He's still swinging for the fences. He's pulling his head out every time. He just looks. He's right now at the plate. He's dysfunctional. He's not hitting anything. He's not in, and I know he had a single on Saturday, but other than that, he stinks. He's awful. He's batting 165. So the Yankees have to address the outfield position. And same thing with Aaron Hicks. Hicks yesterday 0 for 4, 1 strikeout this season. He is batting .221, .342, .284. Hicks is a little bit better this season, obviously, from Gallo. He had a nice hit on Saturday. But Hicks is still not who we want. Preferably, if I could get a Yankee outfield that looks something like come October, that would look something like Judge, Stanton, and Benintendi, or Ian Happ, or Brian Reynolds, something like that, I would take that any day of the week. Now, I think all of our dream would be Soto out there as well if the Yankees could strike a trade for him for a price that's reasonable. I think we all know that. That's not going to happen. Then, if we were to strike a trade for Soto, Volpe's going to be in that deal. The Nationals are going to want a ton for that guy. He's a stud. We all know what he's capable of. He's an absolute stud, one of the best players in baseball, and a guy that's got such a bright future. But that would be the dream, would be Stanton, Judge, Soto. But that's not going to happen, as we all know. It's a pipe dream. But it's realistic to think Benintendi. It's realistic to think Ian Happ. It's realistic to think Brian Reynolds. And like I said, we'll get a good look at Brian Reynolds starting tomorrow, 2-game set against the Pirates. Brian Reynolds is a solid guy. He's a good player. We got to see Ian Happ earlier this season. A good guy. And I'm going to read you some of these guys' stats. So like I said, keep it in mind. Gallo is batting 165. Benintendi this season having a career year at 27 years old. So if you trade for him this year, He's a guy that still only 27, could be part of your future plans in the outfield because it's not like he's in his 30s. He's still 27. So you'd assume he's still got a lot of years left. And it's almost like he's just entering his prime because he's having a career year. This season, he's batting .308. He only has 3 home runs. He's not a power hitter. But he's batting .308, 29 RBI, 769 OPS. Played 76 games so far, and he's been really good. Strikeouts, very low. Last season, in 134 games, struck out 97 times. Only 97. Gallo this season, I think is already probably at 90. Does not strike out much. He is a very good contact hitter. Career batting average of .278. And that's including that one bad 2020 COVID season where he only played 14 games and he batted .103. His on-base percentage in his career is .350. He gets on base. He hits for contact. He's not going to strike out at much at all. He's a very low strikeout guy. OPS of 769. And like I said, he's in the middle of a career year. You get a guy in the middle of a career year, I mean, the possibilities of what he could do on the Yankees. Short porch in left field. He's a short porch in right field. He's a lefty. His bat's made for Yankee Stadium. Now, to be honest, his bat's made for right field, but he's not a power hitter. He's not going to crank 35 home runs, but he is going to, get on base. He's going to get hits. He's quick on the bases, and he's young. He's only 27. It's not like you're going out and investing in a guy that's 35, 36 years old and towards the tail end of his career with a heavy contract. Came into the league in 2016, played 5 years with Boston. He's in the middle of his 7th season. Great option for the Yankees. And also, great option for the Yankees, but a good option for him too. He's in a struggling team right now in Kansas City that can't do anything. Comes to the Yankees, a team that's going to make the postseason, a team that needs an outfielder, would be an awesome option there and would be a great fit too for a guy that this season is getting on base, getting hits, and in the middle of a career year batting .308. He's an option there for the Yankees. Another option could be Ian Happ. And we got to take a look at Ian Happ earlier this year when the Cubs came into town. That was obviously a murdering of the Cubs, that one game where we beat them 18-4. But Ian Happ's another guy. And we all know Ian Happ is a guy that was a teammate of Anthony Rizzo when Rizzo was in Chicago. They still are very close. Happ's another guy too, 27 years old. A guy that, in the prime of his career, right now is similar to Benintendi on a team in Chicago that's got no chance at doing anything. And actually, Chicago is a team too that we've heard more rumors about them being a bigger seller at the deadline than the Royals. Because Chicago, rumors about Contreras being gone, Ian Happ being gone, right? Kansas City, it could be because of the markets are much bigger. I mean, Chicago's a way bigger market than Kansas City. But you haven't heard much come out of Kansas City in terms of who they're going to deal at the deadline. We all know that Chicago's going to be a big seller at the deadline. But Ian Happ this season is batting .285, 8 home runs, 37 RBIs, and an OPS of .845. Another guy that 77 games played this year has stayed on the field consistently. Career hitter of .248. Now, he's in the middle, similar to Benintendi. He's in the middle of a great season. He does not have many strikeouts at all. He's only got 63 strikeouts, which Benintendi actually has at least little. Ian Happ's he's slightly going to be more of a higher strikeout guy than Benintendi, but he's not going to be Joey Gallo. This season, too, like I said, .285 batting average, on-base percentage of .384. His career is .345, so he's way up on that. .461 slugging, and .845 OPS. And his OPS for his career, .811. So up on that, and his average, .285. His career batting average, .248. So he's way up on that, plus like 30-something points on his batting average. So another guy there, got the best WAR of his career at 2.6. So another guy that could be an option. Good in the field. He is a switch hitter, so he could be a guy that kind of takes over for Hicks. He would be that better switch hitter than Hicks. Hicks is a switch hitter, but he stinks. He could be a switch hitter that takes over for Hicks and would be much better coming from Chicago, and you test your luck. Rizzo, we got him at the deadline last year from Chicago. It's worked out great. Maybe we get Happ again from Chicago. Hopefully it works out great again. He's another option there for the New York Yankees to look at in the outfield position. And like I mentioned, similar to Benintendi, lefty bat made for Yankee Stadium. Ian Happ, switch hitter. When he's up there lefty, he can be made for Yankee Stadium. A little bit more power than Benintendi. But neither of these guys are going to crank in 40 home runs a year. Neither of these guys are that type of player. And that's what the Yankees need. The Yankees have enough home run hitters. Judge, great this year with the home run ball. Stanton, great this year with the home run ball. Rizzo has been knocking them all over the field. He's on pace for like 45 home runs. That's way, way past his career high. So the Yankees have been great with the home runs. They don't need another home run hitter. They need a contact hitter that can get on base, and that contact hitter that can get on base needs to play the outfield because we need that badly because we can't have 165 batting average Joey Gallo in the lineup night in and out. So Ian Happ is another option for the Yankees. And the final option, and this is not, me waiting for the, this is not, finally but not least, is Brian Reynolds, Pirates outfielder, another guy, switch hitter, and is in the middle of a solid year. 253 batting average, 15 home runs, 32 RBIs, and an OPS of 70-88. Another guy that can do it in the field, do it with his bats, played 76 games this year. All these guys, too, have been on the field consistently this season. Reynolds coming off of a year in which he batted .302. And he had a season in 2019 where he batted .314. Last year batted .302. This year, .253. So he's a little bit more of a streaky hitter because in 2019 he batted .314. In the shortened 2020 season where he played 55 games, which you really can't count that year, but we count it anyway, 189. 2021 batted .302, and last year he batted, in this season so far, he's batting .253. Another option, on base percentage of .328, slugging of .460, and OPS of 70-88. He's having a little bit of a down year from what he was last season, but he's still batting .253. He'll strike out a little bit more than Happ and Benintendi will, but he's still a guy that's good in the field, 27 years old. All these guys are 27 years old. And that's a coincidence, but it's also just showing you that if the Yankees do go out and get one of these guys, these are kind of the three. These are the three most popular names that have popped up. It's been Benintendi. Benintendi's been the most popular one. Brian Reynolds, I would say, is probably the most second popular than Ian Happ. And I think Brian Reynolds has been the second most popular is because I don't know exactly. I don't know why. I mean, it could be because Reynolds is only into his fourth season, while Benintendi's into like his seventh and Happ's into like his fifth or sixth. So he's kind of maybe a little bit, even though he's 27, he's kind of still on the younger end of his career. I also think the Pirates, being that small organization, could be that team that might not ask for as much because they've still got so much prospects. But Reynolds, another guy, another switch hitter. So you're improving your lineup by getting these guys because you're going to bring in another lefty if you get Benintendi. You're going to bring in two switch hitters if you bring in Happ or Reynolds. I'd be okay with all these guys. I'd actually love to bring in both players. Two of the three guys here. Benintendi, out of all three of these guys, I like them a lot. And believe me, we're going to get a good look at Brian Reynolds this week when we play against the Pirates Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll get a good look at him, see what he's all about. We already got a good look at Ian Happ. He's also a guy that's been pretty popular. He's a pretty solid guy. Benintendi we saw with Boston, but he was good in Boston. He's really good now in Kansas City. Completely different player. So we'll get a good look at Reynolds coming up tomorrow. But out of all three of these guys, if I had to choose one to bring in, it would be Benintendi. Just based off of he's in the middle of a career year where he's doing things that we have not seen him do at all in his career. And that could have been a little tweak he made in the offseason. And if you get a guy that's in the middle of a career and he's hot, and you get him on your team and he continues to stay hot, and that continues into October, you don't know how lethal that could be for the New York Yankees. So I'm okay with Happ and Reynolds. To be honest with you, Benintendi's my number one. Happ and Reynolds are my number two. I don't really like Happ or Reynolds any better than, either of them. I think they're both very good options. I think they both bring a lot to the table. And like I said, no matter who you bring in, any of these three guys, if you bring in somebody else, that's good too. You could do that as well. There's other options out there too, but these are the three most talked about guys. They're going to be upgrades over Joey Gallo. I think that's what people got to nail into your heads. And that's why I'm reading into the stats here. But don't read into the stats too much, because realize what you're going to be getting. Any of these guys, their batting averages are about 100 points better than Gallo. Their on-base percentages are about 100 points better than Gallo. And yeah, Gallo's very good defensively, won a couple gold gloves, but these guys can do just as good defensively as Gallo. So it's going to be an upgrade no matter who you bring in. And watching yesterday's game and watching Gallo yet again just go down without competitive at-bats and strikeout after strikeout after strikeout, it just shows us that there needs to be another guy in the mix. And what the Yankees do with Gallo, who knows? Whether they cut him, whether they bring a guy in and keep Gallo still on the roster, whatever they decide to do, after the deadline, there should be a different guy playing either left field or right field. Because Judge has got center down. Judge is in center, and Stanton doesn't play outfield every day, but when Stanton's in there, he plays right. And then whoever's in left, whether it's Benintendi, Happ, or Reynolds, it needs to be a new face out there. And I think all three of these guys are good options. So comment down below your thoughts. Who is your most preferred player? Like I said, I like all of them. Right now, it'd be Benintendi, though, because he's in the middle of a career year. And also, he's the most contact type of hitter out of all three of these guys. He's the most contact guy. Now, Reynolds is very contact as well. He had 169 hits last year and 35 doubles. And he batted .302. This season he has a little bit of a down year. He's not getting as much contact as he was. And that could be a multitude of things. That could just be, he's just not hitting the ball as well as he was last year. He's still batting .253, though. So he's still over that kind of 250 mark. I think we all kind of see that. Like, you hit 250. Like, it's funny because when you look at batting averages, if you're hitting 250, you're like, okay, you're pretty solid. If you're hitting like 240, you're like, oh, he's having a terrible year. It's just funny how it looks, because 250 and above is it's like halfway to 300. But all three of these guys, like I've mentioned already a couple times on this podcast, are all good options. And the Yankees need to take advantage and capitalize on one of these guys. So we'll see what they do as the deadline looms and gets closer and closer. And I am cautiously optimistic that the Yankees will make a move. I last year I was concerned that Cashman wasn't going to do anything, and he made two big moves. At the time, they were two big moves. Rizzo's been very good for us. Gallo, like I said already today in the podcast, and you already know, has been awful. But I would like to think that Cashman, the rumors have popped up that the Yankees, you cannot. Even if they don't trade for anybody, I still think that Cashman's going to have talks, because no matter how much they like Gallo or no matter how much he's liked in the locker room, you can't keep his bat in the lineup. You just can't. You can't. He might be the nicest guy in the locker room and the biggest, team dude out there, and he might be the hardest worker, taking extra batting practice. I don't know what he's like behind the scenes, but whatever it is, you just cannot get rid of him. And maybe another option, too, is just kind of popped in my mind. You could, if the Yankees don't want to go out, and maybe if Kansas City, Chicago, or Pittsburgh's asking for too much for any of these guys, Yankees could always just bring up Andujar, which they did this weekend. Could always do that, too. If you bring in Benintendi, you could always bring up Andujar to fill in for Hicks, because Hicks has been bad, too. Not as bad as Gallo. He's been a little bit better recently, but Hicks is a streaky hitter. Gallo's just bad. Hicks is streaky. Hicks will go through stretches where he looks really good. He had that big home run against the Astros. He'll go through stretches where he plays well, and then he'll go through stretches where he's awful. Gallo does not go through any stretches where he plays well. He might have a single here and there or a home run, but he's not. That's what his batting. Hicks's batting average is a streaky batting average, 220, right? That's a batting average where you're on a roll, you could get that thing up to 240. When you're playing real bad, that could get down to the low 200s, maybe into the 190s. That's just how Hicks is. Gallo's just a bad player. He's just bad. So Yankees need to capitalize on some of these available players come the trade deadline, which is just a couple weeks away. So our next topic here, we're going to shift to basketball. So completely change over sports here, as we're going to get to some of the Nets and Lakers trade rumors. So as you all know, the drama continues to stir around the Brooklyn Nets and Kyrie Irving and the Los Angeles Lakers and Kevin Durant. And we heard rumors about Durant maybe going to team up with Golden State again, that Golden State players are talking to him. We've heard rumors. Now, Golden State might not trade for him because they don't want to give up as much as what the Nets are asking for. Also, the salary cap is just going to just blow up because Kevin Durant brings a pretty hefty price. Kevin Durant brings a pretty hefty price with his contract, and also they're gonna have to give up a lot. And there was rumors that surfaced yesterday about Kevin Durant that the Nets would have to give up, or the Warriors would have to give up like Wiggins, Poole, and guys like that, which are two guys that are big-time players for them and big-time players for them in the postseason. But the rumors continue to swirl about Kyrie Irving because you would assume if KD leaves, Kyrie's right behind him. And so we got a report yesterday, and this just goes to show you don't know what to trust, and this is why you don't believe anything until a deal is done. Because I remember the day James Harden got traded, I was following that story all day. And in the morning, you heard reports that it doesn't look like the Nets and Sixers are gaining any ground, or they're kind of in a trade talk impasse. And then it gets a little bit better, like you hear reports, oh no, they're close to a deal, then you hear reports, no, they're not. And then all of a sudden, they strike a deal. So you never really know fully what to believe. When you have, 25 different insiders saying that they got the most trustable sources, obviously Woj and Shams are the most trustable. They're the guys that usually breaks the stories quickest. But there's still so many other reports. So some of the reports that came out have been, yesterday you heard a report, or over the past couple days it's been, here's one of the reports. So LeBron rooting to land Kyrie Irving. Lakers star wants Kyrie in LA more than anyone amid trade rumors. There's a report. Another report was involving Kyrie. It said something as the Nets and Lakers are Lakers eyeing Kyrie Russ deal. Nets and Lakers actively engaged in trade discussions around the two star guards. Remove star from that because Westbrook is not a star. And then we hear a report today that comes out that says, and this is from Woj, so I would say out of all of them, this is the most trustable. It is Nets are being patient to get biggest haul of assets they can. Lakers have yet to be aggressive in Kyrie pursuit. That was coming from Woj. So these are all over the place. You're hearing reports from Woj. You're hearing reports from Haynes, who I believe belongs to Yahoo Sports. You're hearing them from all over. But the fact is, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, the bottom line is you better not trade Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook straight up. Maybe there's going to be some other guys in that deal, whether you trade Kyrie Irving for Westbrook and then you get another piece in return or get him in a draft pick. But you better not trade Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook straight up because Russell Westbrook was awful. I mean, he's coming off of a career worst year in which he shot 44.4%, and that was only a little bit up from 2020, but his points went down 4. He averaged 4 less points last season. He averaged 4 less rebounds, 4 less assists. And everyone always talks about Russell Westbrook being that triple-double machine where he's, putting up 20 points or, 15 to 20 points, and he's putting up 10 or 10, 11 rebounds and 10, 11 assists. And that was not the case. Last season, 18.5 points per game, 7.4 rebounds per game, and 7.1 assists. Russell Westbrook is out of his prime. He's old. He's not the same player he once was. He is awful. And Kyrie Irving is a very good player. He is. I mean, I understand you have the whole leadership thing. You have the whole, leadership thing, him not being good in the locker room. I get all that. But you're telling me you're going to trade one of the better guards in basketball and get Russell Westbrook in a return for a guy that cannot shoot, pair him with Ben Simmons, and your team goes from Kevin Durant to Kyrie Irving to a big two with Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook. What are we doing here? You can't do that. I mean, that's awful. Westbrook's out of his prime. He's old. It showed last season. He had one of his worst years of his career. He got benched in the fourth quarter because they didn't trust him. The amount of times LeBron James was frustrated. He can't shoot. His free throws are awful. 66.7% last season. His career average is 78.3 from the free throw line. That's down 12%. That's concerning if you ask me. If you pair up the stats, Kyrie Irving to Russell Westbrook, and you get Russell Westbrook straight up for Kyrie, I mean, that might be worse than the James Harden deal that included the 50,000 pick swaps and the 500 first-round picks that we gave to Houston and whatever other teams were in that deal, because the Nets were impatient and had to make a deal right then and there for a guy that was fat and out of shape and came here and it was a train wreck for the entire year and a half that he was here. The Nets better not make this move. If the Nets make this move, they are going to be in an awful, awful spot. I don't care what they get in return for Kevin Durant. If you make this move and get Russell Westbrook and pair him with Ben Simmons, arguably the worst shooter in basketball, pair them two together, that's probably the worst shooting combo you want in basketball. Westbrook last season from three-point range shot 29.8%. 29.8, what are we doing here? I've always said I don't like Westbrook either. I've always thought he was overrated because he was that big statistical player that everyone's like, oh, look at Westbrook averaging a triple-double. The guy can't shoot. The guy doesn't shoot at a high percent. Guy gets to the line, does not make his free throws. Seriously, obviously, it's clear that he doesn't win championships because every team he goes on, they fall apart. I mean, let's be real here. Went to Houston, fell apart in the playoffs. Went to Washington, missed the postseason. Then he goes to LA and they missed the playoffs. 2 years after winning a championship. Every team he goes to, things fall apart. So you're telling me you're going to get rid of Kyrie Irving, one of the better guards in basketball, one of the better shooters, one of the better ball handlers in the league, and get Russell Westbrook in return and pair him with Ben Simmons? Really? That's going to solve your problem. That's going to replace Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Bad thinking from the Brooklyn Nets. And I hope this latest report of no traction on KD and Kyrie deals is true. Because if you're the Lakers, I take Kyrie. Kyrie doesn't have many suitors because, let's be honest here, he has been a little bit of a pain in the butt. It's the truth. You know, a lot comes with signing Kyrie. It's how it is. But when you talk about skill, you can't even compare Kyrie Irving to Russell Westbrook. Kyrie Irving is still playing at a high level. Westbrook, when you watch him, it's like he's playing hurt. He stinks. It hurts your eyes watching Russell Westbrook. And you pair him with Ben Simmons. If this is true and the Nets are trying to get this deal done, our franchise is already set back. It's going to set the franchise back even longer. So, look, if the Nets trade Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you better get a good return, not Russell Westbrook. And let me read you some of Russell Westbrook's stats and just show you that he's on the decline. Because, you know, I always talk about stats. They don't lie. You know, when you're watching a player, sometimes you might think he's solid. And you look at the stats and it's terrible. And I always say that there's some guys, you watch him and you're like, wow, this guy's good. Then you look at the stats and it's like, what? This is really how it is? And some guys, you look at the stats and then you watch him play and you're like, no way, that's not the same guy. But Russell Westbrook, he's one of those guys that you watch him play, it's bad. You watch the stats and they might even be worse than what you see on TV. So last season, he was 2021-2022 season. Here are his stats. I just took the main ones. Field goal percentage, three-point percentage, free throw percentage, points, assists, rebounds. So here we go. He averaged 18.5 points per game, 7.4 rebounds, 7.1 assists, field goal percentage of 44.4%, three-point percentage 29.8%, free throw percentage 66.7%. Okay, so those were his numbers last year. 2020-2021 stats. This was the season with Washington. 22.2 points per game, that was more than last year. 11.5 rebounds, more than last year. 11.7 assists, more than last season. 43.9 field goal percentage, that was actually last year, you know, this season with the Lakers was actually better. 3-point percentage, 31.5, was better than 29.8. Can't get much worse than 29.8. And free throw percentage is 65.6. That was this season was actually better. But shooting 66.7% from the free throw line, really bad. That's really, really bad. So his career stats, 22.8 points per game. Last season, that career stats, that's better than last year. 7.4 rebounds, right on target with last season. 8.4 assists, more career than last season. Field goal percentage of 43.8, last season was actually better. 30.5%, three-point percentage was better last season. Or this year, career three-point percentage was better than last year. And free throw percentage in his career of 78.3%. Oh, that was 12% better than last season. So his career stats show you that his 2020 stats show you that he got a lot worse in 2022. And his career stats show you that he even got even worse last season. So that shows you that age is catching up to him. He's not the same player. He's out of his prime. He's old. He's not fitting well with some of these other guys. He also took less shots I believe he took less shots last year. So that could be also the reason why his field goal percentage is a little bit better, because it's less opportunities to miss. Now, he had 34.3 minutes. That's the least amount of minutes he played in a season since the 2013-2014 season, where he played 30.7 minutes per game, and he only played 46 games. And I'd have to look exactly why he only played 46 games that year. But the fact is, he had the least amount of minutes he's ever played in a season last year, which was the least since 2013-2014 season when he was in OKC. And that year, he only played 46 games. So, I'll tell you what. If the Nets make this deal, there's going to be a lot of problems. Can't shoot, old, out of his prime, does not have the championship pedigree, does not work well with other guys. Every team he goes to, they seem to fall apart. Coming off of one of his career worst years, shooting-wise, statistics too, wise. He was awful last year. So, if you're the Nets, you don't make this deal. Like I said, if you're going to trade Kevin Durant, you better get a big haul in return. If you trade Kyrie, you better get a big haul. Not as big as Kevin Durant, because teams aren't going to give up as much as they would for Kevin Durant for Kyrie. But you better not make a trade to get Russell Westbrook straight up for Kyrie. And if you make a trade that sends Kevin Durant and Kyrie to the LA and get AD and Westbrook in return, that'd be even worse. Because you're at your AD, who more talented than Westbrook, but AD who gets hurt climbing out of bed in the morning. And you have Westbrook, who is coming off a career worst season. And it's not like this. It's not like, okay, we have shooters. We have Ben Simmons. He's not a shooter. So you're going to put Russell Westbrook with Ben Simmons? Well, what are we doing here? So, Sean Marks and the Nets, I beg you, do not make this move. If you're going to trade Kyrie, and if you're going to trade him to the Lakers, get a way better return than just Russell Westbrook and maybe a pick or two, because it ain't going to work out, I'll tell you that for sure. All right, so let's get to the MLB here and the New York Sports Update and all that good stuff. By the way, today marks 83 years since Lou Gehrig's iconic speech. Luckiest man on the face of the earth. That was today, 83 years ago today. Crazy. Sure is a few, there could be, I don't know if there will be many people out there still today that witnessed that speech. I mean, 83 years ago, could be. If you were 7, 8 years old and you're probably in your 90s now. But, 83 years old, he made the luckiest man on earth speech. So, that, and you got 4th of July, and you got a lot of 4th of July baseball today. As a Yankee fan, I got nothing to watch involving the Yankees, but Mets, they do have a game today. But the rest of baseball, you got the Nationals, Marlins, Rangers, Orioles, Tigers, Guardians, Rays, Red Sox, Cubs, Brewers, Astros, Royals, Giants, Diamondbacks, Guardians, Tigers, Padres, Mariners, Cardinals, Braves, Twins, White Sox, Blue Jays, A's, and Dodgers, Rockies. Mets, Reds today. Mets open up a 3-game set. Mets come into this game 49-30. Reds come into today's game 27-51. This game goes on today, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. You can find it on SNY. Mets have Taijuan Walker on the mound. He's 6-2 with a 2.73 ERA, and the Reds have Hunter Green on the mound. He's 3-9 with a 5.72 ERA. Over/under set at 9.5. So we'll see what the Mets can do on this 4th of July Monday. And as for the my fantasy baseball, I lost this past week, which snaps a long win streak. I lost this past week, 351 to 258. Injuries are really hurting me, so I am very glad that Scherzer's coming back. Tomorrow is when he's expected to start, so I can add him and then put Bassett maybe back on the IL. I don't know exactly what I'll do, but today I've got Carlos Rodon, Taijuan Walker on the mound for my pitchers. Vasquez, Gurriel, India, Bregman, Correa, Adames, Moncada, Gurriel, Blackmon, Araz, Vaughn, Dozier, and Urshela. All guys that I've got going today. And that matchup starts up today, so no score yet. And as for my other fantasy baseball league, I did get the win. So 50-50. Frustrated I lost in my one league, but glad I won in this other league. So I'm 10-2 on the season in my main league, and I'm 9-3 on the season in this other league. I won 321 to 282. And today I've got going Gurriel, Drury, Bregman, Bichette, Uraz, Crone, Springer, Merrifield, Teoscar Hernandez, Charlie Blackmon, Bobby Witt Jr., and I've got 3 pitchers, Rodon, Lauer, and Taijuan Walker as well. By the way, in my main league, I think I mentioned this already, but I now moved to 10-2. So we'll look to get my 11th win this week now. Anyway, that will do it for another podcast here today. Finish it up nice and early. Get usually they're about 40 minutes anyway, but finish it up. I'm going to get it up right after I click off of this. Going to start the uploading process, so then this can be up. It's out there for the rest of the 4th of July, and then go enjoy the rest of the day. So enjoy the rest of your 4th of July, whatever you're doing. Enjoy it, and I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.